Okay, moving right along to our, there we go. Max Armbruster from TalkPush, the CEO of TalkPush. Roland Yao, the Managing Director of Cocoon Ignite Ventures. And our moderator, Napoleon Biggs from Web Wednesday. Come on up.
Good afternoon.
I'll let them introduce themselves, or Napoleon can handle, right?
Hello. I'm really dizzy from seeing everybody interviewed twice. So I'm actually interviewing, as you'll notice here, it's like one of those mirrors, it continues, right? so bear with us. Hopefully you won't see us all 5 times. Next to me here is Max, and I'm not going to pronounce his name because when I first saw it, I wanted to take the mickey out of him and call him Armbruster, which I think he should be the venture capitalist, and you should be the startup. And now my phone's ringing. Isn't that cool? Sorry. That's Max.
Not cool.
So my phone is ringing because I actually applied for a job on Max's platform, which we'll hear about very soon. And Max just told me that I got it. And he's telling me again that I got it. So we'll hear about his platform in a moment. Maybe you can tell us very quickly what it is. I'll tell you my experience very quickly. I went onto Facebook. I looked up TalkPush. And it says, are you looking for a job? And I said, yeah, right. And it had the title Growth Hacker. So I applied, and it asked me a few questions. I could respond with a voice, or I could send in a video, both of which I did. And Max just now told me that he wants to meet me later and interview me. So that's the user experience. Maybe you just tell us what your business. This is Max. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Thank you, Napoleon. Napoleon did really well in the interview. And I think it just took 2 minutes of your time. Yep. And it was all done on Facebook Messenger.
And a taxi on the way here.
So we solved the problem, which is how do you interview at scale? How do you interview hundreds or thousands of people without having to force them through an experience that they don't like? So the interviewing experience, if you remember, when you were looking for a job, could be a very painful one, sending resumes, going on interviews, and so on. And if it's solved by technology, sometime it's forcing people to download apps, to stand in front of webcams, to take long exams. And there's this whole segment of the population which doesn't want to do that and doesn't have the access. So we wanted to have a quick way to qualify people based on their communication skills. So with your submission, we know if you've got good communication skills, if you're nice on camera. So we already know that you'd be good in a retail position or good in a sales role, and we have that data delivered inside an enterprise application on the recruiter side. So I got into this space because this is my fourth company, and my third one was already a recruitment software company, and I saw that this was a space that had not been addressed by existing players.
And you told me that you liked it because it's something to do with AI, and you thought AI has to get into the recruitment world. Is that what it's about?
Well, to refer to the last speaker, there was these giant platform plays. The Google, Microsoft, Facebook. They have all the data.
And Facebook has a recruitment service.
And they're moving into that space, of course. Yeah. And that's what's going to be a threat for the job boards and for a lot of the existing players. So in this complex space where all the data is aggregated by a few major platform players, where do we live as startups? What space do we have? I think what's great about the enterprise space is that the enterprise still wants to own the data that it has. It still wants to own the conversation that it has with its employees or with its customers. So if you're in the space of conversation and of how the data is being processed, this is a space where you can operate where you don't really run the risk of being eaten alive by the platform at some point.
So Roland, I want to congratulate you because apparently he was in Singapore originally. Yep. And there's a rivalry between Singapore and Hong Kong in terms of startups. So was Cocoon Ignite responsible for bringing him from Singapore, pulling him out of the depths of Singapore and enlightening him in Hong Kong? What was the story there?
No, I wouldn't take credit for pulling Max out, but I am very grateful that one of my partners did find Max through our network. And we started speaking, and in fact, through the process of understanding what he was doing, and the importance of human capital technologies, Max's proposition, TalkPush, became quite attractive to us, and that's what led to the investment.
But Cocoon is from a family office, right? Originally the Ma family from Marbell Jewelry. So what's the connection between human capital?
Sure. I mean, very brief history. It was anchored by the Ma family, who have been in the retail business for many years. And in the latest generation, my co-founders, Theodore and Erica, they founded an incubator called Cocoon, through which we saw a lot of different companies. And as we saw each of these companies, or as they saw each of these companies grow, they realized the importance of involving them in a more traditional retail space, which led to us building a fund which has outside investors. So how human capital gets involved is that because having a lot of deep knowledge in the retail space, they understand very well that one of the biggest capital risks in retail is human capital. And so while we do focus a lot on retail technology, we cannot ignore the human capital element. And so therefore the fund, Cocoon Ignite Ventures, focuses both on the retail technology aspect as well as human capital
So at what stage did you come into Max's? Did he come into you with a PowerPoint? Or did he have a functioning software? Was he making money? Did he know the acronym MRR or ARR? Or was it?
I would say not early enough, right, Max?
Not early enough. How much did you have to give away of your company?
I can't disclose that.
Was it below 10?
It was yes.
Yeah, all right, it was, yes. Good job. And
but I've been raising for a while. You know, the job of a seed stage company is to be fundraising almost all the time.
yeah, you look knackered, mate. So you told me something interesting. You said that you originally started off, you kind of warmed up. Cyberport was where you learned how to pitch, right? Was that where it happened?
Yeah, it's kind of true, yeah. My first pitch was to the Cyberport incubation program, I don't know, 3 years ago, when I still had a paying
here?
job.
Why here? What was the reason for here?
Well, moving from Singapore to Hong Kong, I saw this beautiful place where I could work, and it kind of reminded me of California and Silicon Valley. So I thought this is a good place to start.
There you go, Cyberport, California, Silicon Valley. Put that in your tagline.
And then I pitched here in front of a very respectful committee of judges, 10 people in a room, and it was the first time I was pitching this company in such a formal manner. And even though it's just a PowerPoint at that stage or maybe a prototype, those steps do matter, and they do end up, you look back 3 years later after you've delivered the same pitch 50 times, 100 times, and it's gone better every time. You do remember the first time quite vividly. So. And
then you went from here to Blueprint.
Yeah.
And then?
Blueprint, the acceleration program by Swire.
Yeah.
And then from there I was introduced to Seed Camp, which is our first fund based in London. And they've, now they're introducing me to the US investors. So, it's a small world.
So Hong Kong was a stepping stone back into...
Absolutely.
We have this problem in Hong Kong, and when companies get big, they leave us, don't they? Anson. So see if you can stay here. So what are you going to do with his business now that it's, you gave me some numbers, right? You've reached, what numbers? Can you share some numbers?
Well, we're interviewing 10,000 candidates every month, which means we get about 500 candidates hired every month.
Okay.
So 5,000 people get a job every year because of our software. So that's something we get excited about.
So that goes back to the KPMG gentleman's thing about society and contributing to society, right?
Yeah.
You're not doing this for the money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could tell. I've been wearing the same jeans for 2 years.
But you're French, so you get away with it. So, that was a good one. What's your MR, I'm going to throw some acronyms, right? What's your AR? You're a SaaS model, right?
We're a SaaS enterprise software. So the kind of numbers that we have to keep track of is ARR, MRR. So we're about 1 million, closing in on 1 million, within a couple of months of 1 million for the year.
Annual
recurring revenue. No, not monthly.
Not monthly.
I'd be gone already.
Yeah. New jeans.
And then you have to look at churn and the growth and the ARPA, average revenue per account.
So do you have bad churn? So who are your customers? Is it hoteliers? Is it retailers? Is it
Companies that hire hundreds of thousands of customer-facing staff, so it could be hotels. We have the St. Regis and Sheraton Hotel in Macau. It could be a big call center, or it could be a big retail outfit. So anyone who wants to hire in these big volumes, traditionally they don't really have an experience built around this entry level of the market, which allows them to capture the data. So it's usually done on site at location, and there's no way to manage this data scientifically. So it's it's kind of a
And do you find the customers buy the data or they buy the convenience? What is it that they like about your offering? The price, the data, the convenience?
The sales cycle is always very tricky in an enterprise software. So if you could find where the budget is, you're in a much better place. So the only budgets that are really in the hands of an HR team is money that they're going to spend with agencies or money that are going to spend on advertising and a job board. So if you can take some of that budget while selling software, then you can go from a 6-12 months sales cycle to 2-3 months.
So you're cutting the costs.
So we say, well, I could say, I'm going to sell you a software that's going to reduce your headcount by 30%, and do you have a productivity budget? Or I could say, I'm going to bring you 50 new hires next week.
Very nice.
It's a more effective pitch.
So what was it that you liked about his business? Why did you want to invest in it? Was it his persona? Was it the fact that he's outsourced to the Philippines?
It was the fact that he did tell me he didn't change his jeans in 2 years, and that kind of bootstrap mentality is precisely what we like in founders. To be honest, we learned a lot about, again, going back to the importance of technology and human capital, and the fact that he was addressing mass market, relatively low skill labor in an economy in Asia. Was very much a sweet spot. Max taught us the term of hiring in the thousands. We'll leave the billions and all that platform play to the Facebooks and the LinkedIn, but here we're talking about hospitality play, huge growing segment where we can see in Asia, and on the other hand, it's also with all the new technology companies coming out, a lot of it requires customer support, and that somehow may feed back to these call centers that Max was referring to. In both these cases, I'm guessing a lot of the workers there aren't like career call center people or career hospitality people necessarily, if you're hiring the thousands.
So it's millennials. He's perfect for millennials, right? Job hoppers.
Yeah, you could say that.
So,
yeah.
So are you pushing him to go global? Are you saying, look, maybe a small family office, but man, you're going global tomorrow? What's the pressure that you're putting on him?
We wouldn't push him geographically. We would say, how's the MRR looking, and how's the revenue growth looking?
So what kind of pressure? Is it double it? Is it triple it? What kind of pressure?
Until you break?
Until he breaks. Right. Nice.
Yeah.
So you were saying you got because I find it's interesting here, you've got the London connection and the US connection. So it is a company that started here. Where do you see it going? Hong Kong's not a big place. Macau is slightly bigger in terms of hotels and stuff. So where do you see it going, your business? It needs volume, right? Is it China? Is it Indonesia?
The biggest recruitment market in the world, the biggest everything market in the world is the US. So you have to try to break that in. But the two metrics that I track every week is revenue and number of hires. And to get really large number of hires is great because it feels good and because you get a lot of data. So do
you have a dashboard like Mark Zuckerberg that shows you?
Yes.
Do you look at that every morning?
Kind of, yeah. Every day we have the number of interviews we do.
So what are you on now? How many interviews a day?
It's like between 400 or 500 every day.
That's cool.
And so in order to get big number of hires, emerging markets are great.
Yeah.
One thing about Hong Kong is you're the epicenter of the world's demographic market. So you got India, where we do some business. Philippines is huge. China, we're moving into this year. So I'm still very excited about the Asian story, but having spent time in the US and seeing that there's no one really doing what we're doing, it's too exciting to pass. So I'm going to spend more time there too.
US or China? Last question. US or China?
US and China.
And you told me in our little WhatsApp interaction that bots were hot. And I said to you, anime is hot, not bots. So what's hot about bots, and why are you doing bots?
Now,
is it easier to get investors?
bots were hot last
Were
year.
hot.
Were hot last year, and bots are not so hot in 2017. So I was in the Valley last week, so I know what's hot, what's not. The problem with bots is that, so the new expression that's coming in now is the human in the loop. So you need to decide at which point in the bot exchange you want to plug in a human, because there's still human experience that's needed in order to close a deal, whether that's a hire or a sell for some complicated sell. And doing that transition and deciding when the bot handles over to the human is really key. So that's what's hot now. But
Very good.
you know,
To echo that, just the more high tech, the more high touch.
High tech, high touch. Okay, I think we're getting signals. So thank you very much, guys. A little round of applause for these guys.
Absolutely,
Good
that was
job.
fantastic.
And
Thank
wait,
you so much.
where can they find you? If anybody here wants to hire lots of people, where can they find you?
TalkPush.com.
On Facebook. Right?
Yeah, also. Yeah, write to me on Facebook.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.